this was co-written with Ed Sheeran, and Ed has become a dear friend. And I think in a weird way, considers me like the ghost of Christmas future.
Planet Rock.
Planet Rock.
Hello, this is Mark Jeeves. If there's one thing we like to share in the Planet Rock family, it's joy. It's the joy of music, the joy of coming together at events like Rockstock, the joy of knowing that someone has your back. And for us, that's what the rock community is all about. And someone who knows all about our world is the man sat opposite me in the Planet Rock studio. And after a decade that he himself admits was a pretty tough one, he's delighted to have found joy again. And lucky for all of us, he and a few of his talented mates have chosen to express that in the form of music. The man in question is Jon Bon Jovi. The band, you can kind of work out for yourself, and the album is Forever. And in this very special show, Jon is going to take us through the album track by track. Jon, welcome back to Planet Rock.
Thank you, Mark.
This is the 40th anniversary of the first your debut album. We've already talked about this brilliant TV documentary, which is on Disney+, which is Thank You, Good Night. Listening to the album, it does feel like you've got one eye on the past, one eye on the future. Was that in your mind when you were writing it?
Yeah, because, we were archiving, which is what led me to the documentary. So I was caught up in all of that. And coming out of what was COVID, when all of us were home alone, there's a lot of time to be retrospective. Now that we're all free again and able to go out and express ourselves in different ways, that eye forward with the new record, and this feeling of joy came back.
And I can hear that in the record. You feel really relaxed.
Yeah, I think if there was one thing I was very conscious of, especially after the 2020 record, and then facing the surgery, which I had to do, was that I wasn't going to be chasing anything ever again. There's no reason to it. And out of that came a great kind of relaxed feeling, just a confidence in what I was doing, and who cares kind of an attitude. Just write a song to write a song.
That's fantastic. But it's interesting hearing that from you because, of course, you've had a lot of success. So you'd have thought that you'd feel that all the time anyway. It's interesting how life takes you on a journey.
Want every record to be successful.
Yeah.
But you're not chasing fads nor fashions.
No.
That's the place where I'm at.
Before we get to the music, I've got a few quick questions just to get through. We'll just get through these about the album. So you don't have to answer very long on these ones, okay? So we'll talk about the band first. You talked about them as your band of brothers. If you had to describe the band members, so let's take 2 or 3 words, each of your band members here. What would be your top-of-mind words here? David?
Oh, he is the comic relief. That's the best thing to say. He's the comic relief.
Tico?
The Zen master.
Nice. Phil?
The new kid.
Hugh?
The foundation.
Everett?
The add-on, but the compliment.
Nice. And Jon?
The transcriber of the code that I speak in.
Is that what it's like? Is it like you bring?
Sometimes I'm like, and when they can translate that into a feeling, that's when you've been together long enough. And when I'm going,
and it comes out as a song.
And they go,
great.
yeah, we got it. Okay, got it.
We've also got to mention Obi, who's been with you a long time as well.
Yeah, my dearest and best friend and most trusted ally.
Excellent. You all worked together on this? This was a collaborative album?
Yeah, most definitely. He's always there in every record since forever ago. Ob is, I knew before I made records. I met him when I was like 18 years old.
This is when you worked at the studio when you were a kid?
Yeah, and he too was trying to, be an engineer there.
Growing up together, great. And the rest of the band members also worked on the album as well. You really shared the load on this one.
Yes, yes, most definitely.
Okay.
Phil's presence is really heard the most, for him, his contributions.
Okay. Where do you record it?
Nashville.
And what hours do you keep in the studio nowadays? Are you still doing all-nighters?
No, but I've never been an all-night guy. I'm an early morning guy.
Oh, really?
That's where David's comic relief comes in. He's cursing me in 7 languages, and he's the night guy. I'm the morning guy. I like to be in there by noon.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, because when it's time, like by 7 o'clock, I want to go get a drink and go eat somewhere and go back to bed, and then Dave goes out. It's that kind of thing.
Makes sense. I never got starting at 2 a.m. in the morning. It
It's not
never
for me.
worked for me. Never worked
No.
for me. Okay, so the album sounds great. Who mixed it?
Chris Lord Alge, who had done "Have a Nice Day," hadn't worked for us in a number of years, really, really wanted to do the record, and we started it with someone else who's a really prestigious mixing engineer who had done a bunch of work with us before, but Chris just beat the mixes.
Much discussion about them? Or
No.
are you not that sort of band?
No, it's me and John primarily, and in this day and age, you can do it via the internet. So
Right.
I could be in my home, in my office, listening to my speaker setup, and he could be either in the studio or in his home, and we could in real time be mixing the record, that's where technology has really become a friend.
Yeah. And when it's all put together, it flows really well as well. How
Yeah.
did you come up with the final
I
running
did.
order?
I came up with the sequencing quick, and I couldn't even argue with it, let alone could anyone else.
It does
The
flow well.
sequencing, worked.
Okay. When you play these, when you played it to friends and family for the first time, do you still get nervous?
Yeah, because you want them to pay attention and give you honest feedback, but to be patient enough to sit through all 12 songs and listen, and wait for that feedback. Yeah.
Well, it's we're gonna start with the one that we've already been playing. This is
Yeah.
legendary.
Good.
About the community and the family. Tell us about the genesis of this.
Legendary, I think, is an English slang term that I'd often heard here. And for some reason, I woke up one day and I said that word, and I thought, song title, I get this. And so that when we sat down to write it, it was a tribute to friends and family, but especially to Dorothea. And, you and I grew up knowing Brown Eyed Girl belongs to Van Morrison.
Absolutely.
But in this case, and after all I'd been through, and my Brown Eyed Girl, she believes in me, it's absolutely positively Dorothea.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Track 2 on the album, John. We Made It Look Easy. It's the story of Bon Jovi. Really,
Yes,
isn't
it is. Yeah. And for past and present members, everybody's contributions along the way are what got us to this place today. With that one eye on the past while I was archiving and doing the doc, I was very conscious of everybody's contributions. And we made it look easy. That line should be, that word should be underlined, because it was nothing if not, hard work and determination and commitment. But we made it look easy. And this is my thank you to each and every one of those guys who believed in my dream, bought into it. How crazy are they?
But it works so well. When we've talked before about your massive archive and how that translated into the Thank You Goodnight series and stuff
Yep.
like that. When you look back at yourself sometimes, do you surprise yourself at what you did?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it was emotional watching the film because we had done so much together. And, they say you see your life flash before your eyes just before you die. I got to see my life in 4 episodes, and I haven't died yet. So the good news is that we were all rather emotional watching it. And we'd worked on so much together, and the ups and the downs and the ups again. I think that's what really makes for an honest-to-God career. You need to be at least 20 years in before you can start calling it, in my eyes, a career. And then at 40 years, you have a voice. You know what you have to say.
Living Proof's an interesting track. It's got a bit of nostalgia in it, hasn't it? The return of the talk box.
The talk box, yeah. The talk box is almost synonymous with the Bon Jovi sound. I mean, we stole it, to be honest, from Peter Frampton and Joe Walsh, and who had used
Borrowed
it.
surely. Influenced by.
Okay, influenced by, with gratitude. Thank you to Peter and to Joe. And since we used it on Living on a Prayer back in 1986, we've used it several times. It's My Life and even other tracks. So with some of the riffs that we've written over the years, once in a while it calls for the talk box. And like we'd said, it's so synonymous with our sound. This was that. Lyrically, the line that I love the most is, this family tree's got nothing left to prove now. Me and you, we're the living proof. And if that doesn't speak to, anyone who's been a part of this journey, then nothing I've ever written down did, and that's really what this is about.
And it's very powerful. And looking back, I mean, just putting Bon Jovi and your career aside, this does also sound like a record that you could probably only have written at this stage in your life.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Most of these, if not all of these songs, have a real personal attachment lyrically, and that comes with experience. You know, when I was recently, I heard some of the songs from the Fahrenheit record.
Yeah.
And the hardcore fans love the Fahrenheit record. And I heard why the seeds of us were born then. I heard it in those songs. But certainly not the maturity that we have now, you know, in the lyric writing. So as I heard songs of that record in that period, I go, yeah, I get where I was going. But now it's fully bloomed.
It's interesting, I think, all of us through our life doing normal things, just you question yourself constantly and you're always going, okay, am I going in the right direction? Am I doing the right thing? And I kind of, through watching the documentary and through hearing your songs, that sounds like something that you've done all your life as well.
I think you had to, right? If you're going to be serious. One thing somebody told me when I was just starting out is before the first record, is when you put that record on the shelf, it may be racked right next to the new Rolling Stones album. And it better be as good as a Rolling Stones record. Not that I'm comparing ourselves to them, but the point was it better be great.
Yeah.
Or else you're not going to get to make another one, and then another one, and another one. And in order to, you know, be here with you today on my 18th album, we had to focus on that kind of every time we put out a record. And you did the best you could when you're 21 and 22, and you know, and you got better as you went along. But we were blessed enough to have had the opportunity to do several before we got it right.
This next track, you talked about Phil as how much you admire his playing. I think it comes out best brilliantly on this track. This is Waves. His playing is beautiful on this.
Yeah, he really, we let him be the guy on this record. And I wanted him to have his personality shine through. You know, when he first came on, it was difficult for him because he had to mimic what Richie would have played on solos on catalog stuff, because as he says in the doc, you know, people expect to hear those songs the way they were written and recorded. And then when he came on for This House Is Not For Sale, that was still predominantly me and John Shanks. And 2020, of course, being recorded in a vacuum didn't give him any real opportunity to shine, and it was so much more a songwriting record. So now, you know, 10 years on, this was his opportunity to really, you know, make his presence felt. And some of the things he did, like for instance on that last track, a very simple sounding solo was a bouzouki tuning where he puts two strings in one little fret, and it was very interesting just the way he approached it. And I was like, I couldn't even dream of that, Phil. Thank you.
Yeah,
you know, like these kind of contributions were uniquely him. You know, and he's a Greek kid.
Yeah.
So a bouzouki tuning, okay, in the same, you know, little cutout in the nut on the B string, stuff like that. So I loved it, and in this track, he made his presence felt. Yeah.
And I don't know, as you say, that a lot of the album technology allows you to record remotely and things like that. How much of it was done when you were together?
No, everything was in the room.
You were all in the room.
I mean, maybe there was a couple of things that were, you know, done from the demos that we carried over, but every track was cut together in the room. We went to Nashville 7 weeks in a church that's a converted studio where we did good part of 2020 and other things. It's called Ocean Way Studios. And we loved the vibe. We loved the place. So we were in the room. Yeah.
Wow. And I think you can kind of hear that, actually, because it's very the band are very together, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, very much so. You know, everybody's such accomplished players. And we were really prepared. We had done pre-production in New Jersey at my place. So by the time we got to Nashville, there was no second guessing any arrangements.
So you turned up ready to record?
We really did.
Right. I shouldn't have a favourite track. I'm not allowed, but I'm going to have one, which is Seeds.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of tracks that I don't think go on long enough, that need to be longer. And this one finishes too soon.
Wow.
That's my only criticism.
And it really goes long.
I know, but it shouldn't. And it's kind of, you know, you got the sort of day in a lifestyle ending at the end,
Right.
but it just I love this so much. Tell me about it.
Thank you. Very unique track for us. Over the course of our careers, we'd had some songs that you go, I don't know where this came from or why. Living on a Prayer really was that because it didn't sound like anything on the radio at the
Yeah.
time. It was a very unique song. Became now, of course, what it is. Seeds to me falls into that category. I was going through a lot in these last few years, emotionally as well as physically. In this instance, you know, after all the self-help and the shrinks and the surgeries and the hell, I'm staring out the window of my apartment in New York City at a park bench where I'm watching lives intersect and we'll never know each other's stories, you know, but we're all leaving our footprints in the sand, you know, that is this time on our planet. So anyhow, I'm looking out the window and I literally, there's a deep crack in the sidewalk. Yep. Near the park bench on my street. Yep. Right below my window. If you don't trip, you'll walk by it. There's a whole world we don't see. And I'm going, these are the people that I'm living their lives with them and we'll never talk or meet each other. But we're seeds trying to find our place in the weeds and reaching for the light. Okay, got it. So I ran in the room and started writing it down. With this song, unlike so many others on the record, I knew exactly what I wanted the production to be. I knew the day in the life ending. I knew the way that it was going to be four on the floor with that kick drum and snare drum throughout that verse. This was not even a guesswork. This was me with my crazy body language telling Tico how I wanted him to play, you know, in the pre-production. And this song turned out just as I'd hoped. The only contribution I could tell you that I had to have my mind changed is I loved the strings so much. I wanted to fade the band quicker under the strings and predominantly keep the strings loud to the point where Tico, who's never done this ever, called me and said, no, you got to keep the drums until the end. I was like, okay. And he was right. So that's T's great contribution to the mix, is he heard it and he fought for it. And then we did it again to his liking at the very end, and he was right.
I have to say, we've come to a tune which is quite topical at the moment because I think Jake got married at the weekend.
Jake, Jesse, Steph's engaged. I'm getting a discount on tuxedos at my house.
So John's son Jake got married. I think this was written for your daughter. Is that correct?
It is.
This
Steph
called
is
Kiss the
engaged to
Bride.
be married.
Okay.
And she's the little girl in I Got the Girl 25 years ago. The Queen of Hearts will always be a 5-year-old princess to me. And now she's going to be 31. Well, she is 31 now. That's right. She's 31 and about to be married. And so writing this song for her walking down the aisle was the most emotional thing I've ever done. You know, I was crying writing it. I was crying singing it in the studio. I've finally given it to her, and I mean just recently, and she hasn't commented on it yet.
Oh my God.
I mean, it's out, and my daughter hasn't, because I know it's too emotional for both of us.
Right.
But it's, you know, it's my baby.
Of course. 31, man. My son's 31. You kind of go, how did that happen? Right?
Yeah, you blink of an eye.
I know. So when you come to writing a song like this, I mean, is it you sat down and went, okay, I'm going to create this song. Do you bring the other band members in?
No. No. I co-wrote this with my dear friend Billy Falcon. And Billy said the title, and I got it. And I ran over to the piano and I started playing it. It just fell out of my fingers, and I knew exactly what we were doing. And we wrote the song in my office and, you know, in my little room in the house. And literally crying, white rice on the old church steps. And I was like, I got it. I got every picture here. And he only has one child who's his daughter, and he idolizes her as much as I do mine. So it wasn't hard for two goofy old dads to write this about their babies. But, you know, with mine getting married, I said, no, I got it. Because he actually said, upbeat song. I said, not a chance. I said, this is a wedding song. And I played it for Ed Sheeran months ago. And he was like, touche. The man who's like the king of the wedding song, he's like, I didn't think of that angle.
The next track is The People's House. Now,
Yeah.
we'll talk about the track itself in a minute. First of all, I do want to talk about the JBJ Soul Foundation because that is something that is, it's an extraordinary organization. Could you tell us about that?
Thank you. Some 20 years ago, I began the Soul Foundation under the guise of sports ownership. I owned a very small American football team, and in order to ingratiate ourselves in the community, I thought we needed to be more charitable. Initially, we were Robin Hood. Whatever you need, we can maybe come up with a couple nickels and donate. But one day I found focus in a homeless man sleeping on a grate in front of City Hall. Imagine this City Hall is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the birthplace of our nation. So I see this and I go, that is not what the forefathers were thinking. How do I find somebody in this field? Obi found the absolute expert in the field who happens to be a nun.
Wow.
So he goes down and he meets Sister Mary and he says, Sister Mary, I work for John Bon Jovi and he would like, and she goes, I'm Mary Scullion and I work for God. I went, I'm going to like this lady. So I went down to meet with her and she said, look, if you boys can save up enough money to fix one row home, then I think you'll have done good. And I wasn't being a wise ass, but I said, what would it take to refurbish this block? And she said, I like you too. And I said, it's not about money. I said, because I just think if we get a street, we can get a neighborhood. If we can get a neighborhood, maybe we can impact the city. So some 20 years ago, we hit it off. This is a nun who doesn't wear a habit. It's called a Sister of Mercy. So when I tell you that they're down in the alleyways with the homeless and the hungry and those in need, she's down there. And she is a tough and rumble. She was the line in the song Born to Follow. This one's about the one who curses and spits. That's my nun.
All right.
That's Sister Mary. So
She sounds like a great nun.
she's the coolest. And so out of that, we've now built 1,000 units of affordable housing.
Wow.
And in 2008, when the economic downturn in America happened, Dorothea conceptualized what became the Soul Kitchens. And the model is quite simple. You and I can affect change directly by leaving a suggested donation, but there's no prices on the menu. So you either volunteer, which is empowering, or you donate and you to affect change directly. So we've been there for 12, 13 years. We have 4 of them. We're feeding thousands of people daily, not daily, annually. And it, it works. It's a model that didn't exist before.
Yeah, it's extraordinary, and you can find all the details actually on the website. Just Google
The
JBJ
JBJ.
Soul Foundation and
Yeah.
the Soul Kitchen specifically.
Right.
And it's when you look at it, I mean, in this day and age, we shouldn't be having to have things like this. You shouldn't be having to feed people in that way. But
There is plenty of food in the world. We just
Exactly.
need to distribute it better and get it to people in need.
and this is a really good way of doing that. And I think it's exceptional thing. When I'm not suggesting, and you'll know better than I, John, because you wrote it. The People's House is about that. But having read all about that stuff, when I heard the People's House, it just felt like it's all part of that story.
Part of it, but it was written watching what we're referring to as the insurrection of January 6th in America post the election, before the changing of hands, the raid on the Capitol. And I was thinking, we got to get something to unify our country, which is just a train wreck right now. Everybody is on pins and needles wondering what this next election will bring. And I was looking for something to unify us because, everyone, after the color of your skin, we're all the same, for God's sake, And this is the People's House, and that's how we refer to America. From sea to shining sea, the Rocky Mountains built these walls. The halls are our city streets. No wrecking ball will come and knock it down. Nobody's going to steal the keys because, this stolen election and all that horse shit. This is the People's House, the house of you and me. And I was thinking of Marvin Gaye, and I was thinking of Stephen Stills, and I was thinking of those socially conscious anthemic songs that taught a generation to either witness history or try to rewrite it.
The next tune we're going to play is going to be a big live anthem. This is The Walls of Jericho. It's a fantastic sing-along, proper big Bon Jovi rocker.
Yeah, it is. Religious overtones, but just the idea of the classic we coming together can tear down whatever the walls may be. And yeah, I agree with you, Mark. I think that live, this can be a lot of fun. I could see the hands up in the air. But, unlike a song like You Give Love a Bad Name, our first #1 single, big anthem, when we wrote it, we knew it was radio friendly. We never knew it would be a #1 single, of course, but we were feeling good about it.
Yeah.
This is that kind of anthem but it's a smarter lyric.
Yeah.
So just better, not better, different songwriting.
Okay. Well, this all comes back to the maturity of your maturity as a songwriter and the way you feel about the world and wanting to get your message out to the world, but at the same time, accessible for people to enjoy.
Yeah. It doesn't take sides. It's inclusive.
Inclusive is that's a big part of your philosophy, I think, isn't it?
I think it's important because otherwise, if you think that you're smart enough to preach, you're gonna make a mistake. Who could ever fall down on the right side of any issue without an argument from the other side? And who am I as just a simple singer in a rock and roll band to take that high perch and think that I know the answers to everything? I'm searching just like anyone and everyone else.
But you mentioned Stephen Stills earlier, just as who I guess is an inspiration in through that social conscience. It does change. That you can change the way that people think.
You can bring people together through song. One thing that has to do with so many of the great rock and roll songs that we've heard over the last 50, 60 years now is it transcends boundaries, languages, political beliefs, color of one's skin. Music has brought together people around the globe. Going to the Soviet Union and playing Living on a Prayer was monumental because, it brought people together. People that we grew up in America going, they're the bad guys. They're not the bad guys. They're wonderful people.
Yeah.
And I've witnessed that with our own music and seeing other people have gone before and after us that have brought people together through music.
Just to go rock and roll for a minute, you mentioned the Soviet singing Living on a Prayer. I don't know where you wrote the lyric for Living on a Prayer. You were probably in a room somewhere.
New York City.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you remember the room you were in?
Yeah, some guy's borrowed apartment that Desmond knew.
Okay. So you're in Moscow and they're singing those words back to you? How that must mess with your head a bit, surely.
Yeah, it was the power of music. That's what got us there. We went over to do that festival. I'm going to venture to say, although we were definitely not the first rock band to go there. Billy Joel had gone, Paul McCartney had gone, I believe even Elton had gone. But this was, I would venture to say, the first Western rock festival, right? So it's us and Scorpions, Motley Crue, Cinderella, Skid Row, and a Russian band called Gorky Park. If I missed anybody, I apologize. But we went over and we did Lennon Stadium. And at that time, if you had those Western rock albums, you could go to prison.
Exactly.
Jail.
Yeah.
See you later, bye.
Yeah.
And I remember that Obie and Dorothea brought back some kid who had on a little teeny piece of paper a list of the Western rock records that he had because it was so small and in the palm of his hand that had a policeman come to him, he could eat the piece of paper.
Unbelievable.
He could eat it. And he would just talk to other kids in the audience. I've got these. What do you got? How can we share? Where do I meet you? And it was so astounding that Doc McGee went to Melodia Records, which was the state-owned record label, licensed them the New Jersey album to make it the first rock band to have an album on the Melodia label, and they licensed New Jersey. So that was pretty cool. It's groundbreaking.
It's extraordinary.
Yeah.
Extraordinary story. The next track I want to talk about is has got some of David Bryan's finest playing, I think, on it. So I wrote you a song.
You're being nice to David. He loves that.
He's great.
He is beyond great. And
He
he's
captures-
also a science experiment. He is either a vampire or a robot. This guy, he is currently the mayor of Nashville. He's moved to Tennessee, and he goes out every night representing the teenager in him. But anyhow, David is an incredible musician who I don't know how he does it every night, and then he comes back every day stronger. But yes, I can always count on Dave, and he's I love him with all my heart. He played great on this song. He played great on every song. He's great.
When you first met him, did you kind of know, oh, yeah, I want you on
Oh,
on
no.
side?
No, let me be perfectly clear. No. Dave had gear, and his father had a van. I didn't give a damn if he could play a note. He was in the band. Oh, no,
Well,
no, 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 no.
Okay, okay. Well, he seems to have stuck it out, and he's.
Not only stuck it out, but I love him. Love him with all my heart.
Tell us about the song.
This was one of those crazy times that when I'm in writing mode, whether I'm writing by myself or co-writing on a song, it's all encompassing. So every minute of that time, you are thinking, even subconsciously, about writing. And in this instance, I was keeping a notebook next to the bed and a pen next to my bed, and I'm asleep. And I get up in the middle of the night, and I've done this many times, and you're down on the floor, on your knees, and your rear end up in the air, and your elbows on the rug, and you're writing. And I wake up in the morning with every I and T of this entire first verse written. And I come down with the melody and the lyric, and I'm walking down the stairs, and I'm saying, listen to this, to Dorothy and to Billy. I go, listen to this, when these hands won't strum and I can't find the chords, my voice don't want to sing. And I'm singing this. And I come down to the bottom of the stairs, and I go, we should work on this today. Just got to come up with a great chorus. And Billy Falcon looks up the stairs to me, and he goes, I wrote you a song. And I was like, duh. Because that's literally what I did in my sleep. And I kept the scrap piece of paper because it looks like I wrote it in front of you right here, right now. The handwriting is perfectly legible. Every I and T is dotted and crossed. And I just wrote it all in my sleep.
Wow, that's a great image.
It's crazy. Well, me and my fat rear end up in the air. I don't know if that's such a great image, but I literally it worked. A great melody, a great lyric. And I said, we just need a chorus. We need a title. And he goes, I wrote you a song. I'm like, duh.
There
And the rest of it was, quick.
Fantastic. It's a very fine album. It's one of those where a lot of rock albums that come out now, no disrespect to them because they're all doing their good thing, but they're kind of really in your face. You feel like you are being hit in the face sometimes with a piece of music. But this one, it breathes. This has a lot of space.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Well, I believe that an album needs a beginning, a middle, and an end. It needs to take you on some kind of a trip, whether it's a drive or a walk through the park. But it needs to start with something that's making a statement. It needs to close with what you feel about this piece of work, and it needs to have peaks and valleys. And so I worked very hard to make sure that we had that with this, and thank you for noticing.
So let's get to Living in Paradise.
Yep.
Is this a song for Dorothea?
It is. This story, and this was co-written with Ed Sheeran. And Ed has become a dear friend. And I think in a weird way, considers me like the ghost of Christmas future. And, so he and Cherry and the girls came to stay with us. And, and I think that they're observing somebody who's been at this for a longer period of time and, in a working relationship and with grown kids now. And he was observing it all. And they were both asking a lot of really wonderful, innocent, but fun questions. And then we sat down and we wrote this, and it's sort of like picking at that.
That's interesting, isn't it? And Ed, he's obviously, aside from his huge success, his songwriting has just connects with people.
He's so talented.
Yeah.
I mean, it took nothing to write this. The two of us together was nothing but a wonderful experience. And he has my undying admiration just because he's such a sweetheart of a guy and truly is that talented.
Fantastic. And this is a really, for anyone who's in a relationship where you just count your blessings every day, this is the song. I think you captured it so well.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're in a castle or a trailer. If you really got that somebody in your life that matters, it's not a quote unquote love song, but it's an ode to what real love is, the relationship.
We get to this penultimate track here, which goes back to your recently found, I believe, Univox guitar.
Yeah.
And it's called The First Guitar.
My first guitar.
My First Guitar.
Yeah. When I was a boy, the first electric guitar that I received by my parents as a Christmas gift was a Univox Sunburst Stratocaster type $100 guitar. The cardboard case with the red kind of furry plush, inside. And I'd played it, but all of my heroes were playing Fenders and Gibsons and stuff that you'd see in the pictures in the magazines. So I aspired to that. and I'd written on a pizza oil stained paper plate a note to my parents in the voice of the guitar. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Bon Jovi, I am the Univox guitar. I'm tired. I need to be retired. Would you please let me go? And my mother's note back on the pizza oil stained paper plate was take 2 aspirin, call me in the morning. No. And I saved the paper plate. Don't ask me why, but I have it. And I then sold the guitar to a neighborhood kid for $100. And a volunteer at the Soul Kitchen came to me and said, I know that boy who's now a grown man, still lives in your hometown, a retired police officer. He's moving. He's willing to give it back to you. And I said, I would love nothing more. So I bought it back from the guy, and I met his children, and it was great to I knew him, but I didn't know him, that kind of thing. And he was great about it. And I swear that the 6th string was not on the guitar, and the spots that I see on it, I believe he never touched this guitar. I don't think he ever touched it in the 45 or so years that he had it. And so I believe that to be the sweat from me as a kid on it. And certainly the 5 instead of 6 strings gives me reason to believe that he never touched this thing. So I took it out, went home, sat it in my lap, and I wrote this song as an ode to, my teenage years. I was hesitant to put it on the record, but ultimately because of the sequencing, I thought it helped tell the story. So this is a true story. Playing old Kiss records in my folks' backyard. I'm 17 years old. I'm a rock and roll star. I'm in love with my first guitar. And that's it. That's the story of this one.
And we've got to the last track, which is Hollow Man, which I think you've described yourself as you standing out in a field with your arms raised going, fill me up.
Yep.
Tell me about that.
I think at this time in my life, especially, I can do this. I trying to find themes for songs and then ultimately themes for a record. You wonder where and what you have to say. And of course, during COVID, it all became clear that I had to be the narrator in what was going to be a topical record. And This House Is Not For Sale, I'm very proud of the band coming together on it, but that had to be a statement record. We're not going anywhere in this post-Ritchie era. So again, not a joyous record, but a statement. Mm-hmm. With this record, it comes together, and I need a theme, and I'm still reaching. People's House was a holdover from 2020, but I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to narrate any longer. So this is the first song I write for this record. And I'm strumming my acoustic, and I'm sitting there, and I have an old songwriting trick that if I don't know what I want to say, in essence, write down, I don't know what I want to say today. Bed of Roses would be a great example of that. Sitting here wasted and wounded at this old piano, trying hard to capture the moment this morning, I don't know. That sets you off on the journey of the song because you say, I don't know what I want to say. Yeah. Let me talk to this piano. With this song, I'm strumming my guitar and I'm trying to think of where I'm going. What do you sing when your song's been sung? And I went, there it is. And I write it down, and now it takes me on this trip. And, who do you fight when the war is won? Which, again, you got to be 40 years on to write a line like that. And it takes me on this journey. So I'm basically saying, God, fill me up. I'm empty. I'm a vessel. I'm looking for your guidance. And, I'm the hollow man. And I think that it's the perfect song for the end of the record. To say, here's how it all began. And tell this story for me.
It's been brilliant having you explain your process, not just of recording, but also the thought process of all of these tracks on the album. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Mark.
I've said before, and I have no shame in saying I have, since I saw that Living on a Prayer video in 1986, and then going back and finding Runaway and all the rest of the stuff, I have been a ridiculously passionate fan. And what I'm really delighted about is that every record that's come out I've loved for one reason or another. But the fact that when my partner and I drove back from Devon, it's about a 3-hour drive to where we are, and we sat and listened to this because your record company sent it to us ahead of time, which is very kind. And we sat and we listened to every track. And by the end of it, we were just so happy that it wasn't it wasn't a disappointment. It wasn't sort of a filler. It wasn't something that was just put together because you thought it'd probably better make another record. It really feels so good to hear that you care about this stuff. You have heart, and also, we're roughly the same age. You've had a very different life to mine, but there's kind of all that age stuff. You feel the same. Your kid's 31, mine, my daughter's 31, mine's 31. All that. And it's just, and to hear it, I absolutely love this record, and I'm so glad you've made it. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me say that to you.
Thank you
because
very, very much.
It's wonderful.
Thank you.
When you come, and we spoke last time we spoke, you said we don't know when you'll play live, but it'll happen at some point or ever. When that comes around, I hope you're going to include quite a number of tracks from this record.
That will be the intention.
Because they need to be heard live.
Yeah, I do hope so. We're getting dangerously close. I'm improving all the time. Even since I saw you last, there's been improvements. And it's a bitch because your vocal cords are as big as your thumbnail. So that's as big as the whole economy is. It's that big.
Yeah.
But, I'm working hard and I'm feeling better every day. And it's been 2 years and it has sucked. But I wake up in the morning and my voice is clear, and I go to bed at night and I know that it still works. So it's just getting better every day.
And every now and then, you're on the floor with your ass in the air writing a song.
Exactly.
Well, that's okay.
That's the picture we'll leave our audience with today.
Thank you for coming in, John.
Thank you, Mark.
Planet Rock.
Planet Rock.